Hello and welcome to another episode of Talksicology, brought to you by Recovery Unplugged. Here at Talksicology, we talk all things addiction, recovery, and mental health. Tonight's guest, attorney and co-founder of Recovery Unplugged, Marshall Geisser. I'm your co-host, Jason Cabello, and as always, your host and mine, Joseph Gorordo. Joseph is busy right now. I just got a text from him asking him where he's at, and he said he's out there saving lives, doing God's work. He actually forgot about the podcast, and he's chilling at the park with his kid, which is fine. We love it. All good. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. I'm going to start with some pretty big news. To our loyal fans and listeners, who have been joining us, every Thursday night for I'm not sure how many weeks now. Greg, how many weeks are we at now? In the early 30s, maybe. Anyway, tonight will be the last episode of Talksicology. On Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central. We are going to be moving till Wednesday night. It's been 38 weeks, so thank you for all of you who tune in religiously. Yeah, big things coming. We're going to change up the night. We're going to be moving some stuff around. We're going to be trying to make some better content for y'all. And we appreciate you for sticking around, but we are going to change nights, and we hope that you will still join us same time, just a day earlier. So if you really think about it, you get your Talksicology a day early. So win-win, right? So yeah, I was not prepared to come on here all by my lonesome. So I think we'll just go ahead and bring on today's guest, who is, I was going to say he needs no introduction, but if I give him an introduction, then that kind of nullifies that. So the introduction for today's guest, co-founder of Recovery Unplugged, and a lawyer, an attorney who has done so much for the drug court system in, I believe, maybe, I know Broward County for sure, but I'm not sure if it's exclusively in Broward County. We'll get into that. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marshall Geisser.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Marshall. How you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you guys doing?
Well, it's just me. So, behind the scenes, Greg too. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No,
So,
I mean you guys, whoever's here on our Zoom broadcast, on this podcast.
Oh,
here.
look at you, you broadcaster, lawyer, podcaster, broadcaster.
Yeah, I got my undergraduate degree in broadcasting. Never used it. So,
well,
there you go.
Here we go. It's been a long time coming. Maybe we could, we'll get together more. We'll do some more broadcasting together. So, yeah, how's it going, man? Good to see you.
Thank you. And it's great to be seen. As I always say, the alternative is not too good. So I always like being seen.
Yeah, good. So let's get into it, man. Let's tell the world a little bit about Marshall Geisser, Esquire.
Okay. So I am a criminal defense attorney, been a criminal defense attorney since 1988. Started in the Broward County, which is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, public defender's office. Worked there for 5 years, went out on my own, been practicing law since then, with the exception of when we started Recovery Unplugged. I stepped away from my law practice for 5 years to help build a company. And
thank you.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you on board too. You're a great example. You're a great example of what our program can do and be. So I've spent my life pretty much helping people, and I found in my practice, and I've represented tens of thousands of people over the years. I've been doing this 35 years. And I'd say 95% of my clients and 95% of their cases stem from drugs and or alcohol.
Right.
And so I've always had an interest in the business, always, because it was a way for me as an attorney to essentially help. I got to do two things. People going into recovery, going into rehab, helped me to be able to help them. And so the win-win was they also were getting into recovery. And so it worked out well. And at some point, we had the opportunity to start Recovery Unplugged. And so we took that leap too.
Okay. Well, let's back up a little bit. Where'd you grow up? Where you from?
Oh, okay. We're going old school. Okay. I was
Yeah.
born in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
I've lived in Michigan, Massachusetts, various places in Florida. Started law school at University of Houston, and then transferred to Florida State University. And like I said, I worked for the Florida legislature for a couple of years while I was in law school at FSU. I worked for one of the cabinet members and dealt with a lot of environmental and criminal justice issues. And so I've always kind of had my foot in the politics and in the law. So that's how I got here.
Okay. And so what started the wheels in motion for you to get involved with drug court? Or
well,
because there was no drug court when you got started, correct?
It's a great story. So I was one of the public defenders assigned to a judge. His name was Robert Fogan. And myself and two other public defenders, along with three state attorneys, were in that courtroom. Judge Fogan was a recovering alcoholic. And Judge Fogan was really the person who said, we need to do this. I believe, if I'm not incorrect with the history, that Dade County had just started a drug court. So this was back in like 1989, I'm going back, man, but 1989, 1990.
Right.
1990, I think it was, when we started drug court. And so in order to start drug court, you had to have the agreement of all the people who would be involved in the criminal justice system. So that included the state attorney, who was not in agreement to having a drug court. So we did some research and we found a loophole in the law and the statutes that allowed us as public defenders, and allowed the judge, because he was the reason why this started. He was a huge proponent of recovery, obviously, and we found this loophole which allowed us to dismiss cases if people did a drug or alcohol program. And so notwithstanding the fact that the state attorney was against it, we started using that loophole. So every time I'd have a client that came through that was eligible, we'd get them into a drug program. And they'd have to meet a year's worth of meetings and treatment and things along those lines. And then as they graduated from the program, they'd come back into court and the judge would dismiss the case. And it basically forced the state attorney to just agree to go along with this program. And that's how we started it.
Yeah, I'm assuming you weren't very popular with the prosecuting attorneys starting out then, right?
Well, I've never been popular with the state attorneys, but I guess that's kind of my job, right?
You're rattling some cages and rustling up some feathers.
Listen, man, we're out there, criminal defense attorneys. It's always funny. People look at me and they're like, how could you do that? How can you represent those people? And then they become one of those people because of something stupid. Most of the time, my clients just make poor choices. They have a bad mistake. They drink and they drive. They still drink and they drive. I'm astonished that people are still getting arrested for DUIs, but people still drink and drive.
Right.
People who have addictions, they jack people to get chains and purses to sell so they could get some crack back in the day.
Right.
And, that was the go-to drug back then.
And man, I grew up in Dade County and was around, Dade and Broward County during the late 80s, early 90s. And, oh boy, that was like the Wild West back then. It was insane. You must have had your work cut out for you.
It was crazy. We had a sheriff back then. His name was Sheriff Navarro.
Nick Navarro.
Navarro. Look at that. Wow, you are old, Jason. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, but not as old as me. So don't worry. So Nick Navarro used to bake crack in the crime lab, and then he'd put his sheriff's deputies out, and they would do reverse stings. So they would sell the drugs and then pop our clients.
Okay, I never knew that. That's pretty. I knew that he was not a great stand-up guy, and didn't he? He was one that busted like Luke Skywalker and 2 Live Crew for dirty lyrics.
Yeah. My friend actually represented him on that too, so it was pretty funny. I had one of my friends that represented him, and one of my friends who's a fantastic criminal defense lawyer now was the prosecutor on the case. So it was kind of interesting there. But yeah, he was a guy that created crime. It took for us to have a new sheriff get elected for that practice to stop. But
my mom says Alan Jacoby, maybe was that the lawyer Jacoby?
No.
Okay.
It was Jamie Benjamin.
Okay.
Jamie Benjamin. So, giving props out for Jamie. He's a great guy, great attorney. And so, yeah, those were the days. When you say Wild Wild West, it was the Wild Wild West. And we would go to trial. I went to trial a lot. And and they were all on these reverse sting cases and drug possession cases and, things that we would call dropsies, where people, would be holding on to a rock and, the cops would come on them and then they drop it by their side.
Yeah. So I was going to say that seems like a lot of work. Like if they're making the crack and then planting it, but I was going to say, why can't they just use fake crack? But I guess it has to be real crack because they have to test it and then prove in court that it was crack.
It has to be cocaine. You're right.
That must have been some fucking good crack coming straight from the BSO. That must have been, if you could get your hands on it, that must have been like the next level shit.
Yeah, it was interesting. So what ultimately happened is, so the guy who was the head of the crime lab became addicted to crack cocaine.
Oh shit!
So he started smoking his own stuff.
Just to test, I'm just gonna make sure that it, check the purity.
A friend of mine, who was a public defender at the time, befriended him and got addicted, and so she ended up losing. She couldn't practice because she got arrested and had some issues. Got clean, was appointed by the governor to be a judge on a rebound, and she became the misdemeanor drug court judge for many, many years.
So there's a big thing amongst crack users is like when you get super high, like you peek out your windows looking for like the cops and the law out there. But what happens if you are the cops and the law and you're smoking the crack? Like, what are you looking out the window for? I asked the tough questions here.
For your other friends that aren't smoking crack. So,
yeah. So going back to when you decided that you wanted to go to law school, were you one of those, I'm going to take the system down from the inside kind of guys? Is that, were you a little bit of a rebel going into law school? No?
Nope. I wanted to be a politician. And I had worked on some campaigns. I had worked for a state legislator who was the criminal justice chairperson for the Florida House of Representatives before I went to law school. So I always wanted to run for office and do stuff. And then when I got into the actual process of the politics, I found that I was way too honest for it.
Oh,
So I hate to say that, but you can see where we are politically now. So
right. I would
go ahead.
I would love to like slip and fall, hit my head, and wake up in the universe where you took the political route and are now president of the United States. I would love to see what a wonderful world this would be.
That would have been interesting. That wasn't really ever one of my goals, but I did want to be
In that universe, it was.
Yes. Oh, in your alternate universe, which
Correct.
is great, Jason. It's a great place that you're AU. So I'll give it out to you.
Well, it's
But,
never too late. You heard it here first, people. 2020, let's say 2028. Give you a little bit of time to work on some stuff, raise some funds. We'll help wherever we can, but you've got my vote.
I appreciate it. I'm sure I'm not going to have the vote of the people in the state of Florida, though. So we are, without getting into all the politics and everything, but we're not far behind Texas when it comes to
true.
When it comes to places. Anyway.
All right. So you're working drug court. You're seeing. I'm imagining good results. You're seeing some people complete the program, not having to face any jail time, to go on to lead normal, productive lives.
We've seen a lot of that. Yeah.
And is that what kept you going? Is that what kept your interest in it? Because I'm sure if it wasn't working, if it was just a waste of time, you would have maybe found another passion in life. But you continued to want to help people, And then what led you to get into, starting Recovery Unplugged, or what were the baby steps that led to that?
Okay, so this is an interesting story. So I will admit, I am not in recovery. I was a substance abuser when I was growing up. I partied a lot. I used to tell people I tried very hard to become an addict, but I was unable to do it. So all my addict friends tell me I'm very lucky that I wasn't. So because whenever
I don't want to slip and fall and end up in that universe where you did.
I gotcha. Yeah, and I'm very fortunate. I mean, had an incident happen that kind of scared the life out of me, and got clean from that. But
do you mind telling that story?
Oh, my kids are on this.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm already startling my kids enough.
Oh, it must have been a pot seed that popped in the joint, and you were like, "Oh shit, I can't do this anymore."
Yeah, that wasn't quite it, but that's okay. And anyway, I always thought it was very weird. So like, I would have people that come into my office, and I would say to them, I say, just quit. I don't get it. Just quit. And because I didn't have any background, because for me, I just quit.
Yeah.
I just stopped. And I didn't understand it. And then one day, in the courthouse, and one of our other co-founders, his name is Paul Pellinger. Paul was in recovery, and Paul had a business that I could hire Paul, and Paul would do an evaluation for my client. Paul would find me a rehab, and Paul would come in and testify in front of a judge to explain why my client, was a good candidate to be in a program and they shouldn't go to prison, right? And so one day I see Paul in the courthouse, and I was asking him, I said, like, I used to pay Paul like $750 a client. And so I asked Paul, I said, dude, how do you get by on $750 a pop? That you've got to do like a zillion of these cases to make any money. And he just started laughing. I said, "What's so funny?" He says, "Nah, dude, man, I have a separate business. I open up rehabs. I get rehabs licensed. I open up detoxes and get them licensed, and IOP programs." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "So I've always been trained to look at opportunities." And so I looked at him and I said, "So why don't we open one?" And he looked at me and he said, "Well, everyone, I got a bunch of lawyers that want to open a rehab. Why should I do it with you?" And I said, "Well, Paul, because it's me." And anyway, so we literally sat down. I asked him, I said, how much money would we need to raise to put this together? And he wrote everything out on a napkin, literally. And I started searching my head for people I knew who could put stuff like this together. And Andrew Sossin, who's now the CEO of Recovery Unplugged, was the first person I thought of, because Andrew knows how to put deals together. And I said, if I could put together a group, would you meet with us? And so he said, sure. So left that meeting. First call I made was to Andrew. I said, "Andrew, do you know anything about the drug rehab space?" He said, "As a matter of fact, I've been studying a lot about it, and I'm supposed to meet with a group tomorrow to talk about going into business with them." I said, "Well, I have this opportunity," and I explained to him what happened. And he said, "Okay, I'll meet with your guy instead." And that's literally how we started Recovery Unplugged.
Wow.
Now, Andrew and I, neither one of us were in recovery. So, Paul understood it.
Paul is in recovery. Paul is many years clean. But I do know that Andrew had family members that he kept on sending to treatment that weren't getting the help they needed. So, it's not like he was just an outsider. He was like yourself and already an advocate for those struggling with addiction.
Correct. So, I mean, it was a space that he was looking at, in essence, so he could help family members also. So we've had some of we've had family members come through, on both sides. I've had family members come through. He's had family members come through. So it was interesting and exciting. But Andrew and I, neither one of us were in recovery, so we had to rely on Paul. And we originally started as Harmony Treatment Center, and we started. Paul said, I've been holding on to this idea for like 15, 20 years, and I'm really interested in trying it. And we said, what is it? He says, well, I'd like to utilize music as the catalyst for recovery. He says, it's a method to be able to break through a lot of blockages. People can always relate to the lyrics. People can relate to music, and it can open people up. And so Andrew and I said, hey man, go for it. Sounds great. So fast forward maybe 6-8 months, we heard about this guy. There was a guy in the rooms in Broward County by the name of Richie Supa, who is very, very, very well known down here. Richie's a former touring member of Aerosmith, very close friends with Steven Tyler.
Songwriting partner.
Partner, right? They Grammy Award-winning song, and they've written just a lot of songs, and he toured with them for several years, and Richie had his own little thing, so people would hire him to come in and do a group, and they'd pay him to do a group, and he'd lead them using music. And his company was called Recovery Unplugged, and we hired a new marketing company, and so we had one of these brainstorming sessions. We literally were in a room for like 6 hours, throwing out names, trying to come up, writing on the walls, writing on windows, trying to figure out. And all of a sudden, Richie just says, it sounds to me like what we really need to be called is Recovery Unplugged, and I'm willing to give you my name. And so he gave us that.
And then a dove flew through the window and a shaft of light landed on a guitar, and then you
That
guys
is
knew
it.
that was it.
That is it. And Jimi Hendrix showed up in an alternate universe.
Nice.
Straight. Anyway, but that's how we started Recovery Unplugged. And then as both Andrew and I got involved in the company, we brought in Rob Harrison, and Rob's been with us basically since the very beginning. He's like our director of operations. He handles everything across the country. We have 5 facilities now, so we're excited and have a good group together.
You did. And you know what my biggest takeaway from this entire story was? If I ever have a business idea and I'm talking about it with somebody, to write it down on a napkin. Because it always seems like when you hear these stories, it's always on a napkin. So I need to get some napkins. But that is
I gotta tell you, I wish I saved the napkin.
Me too. That could have been framed, and that would have been great.
That would have been classic.
You could always,
as one of my daughters says, that would have been iconic.
You could fake it. You could just put some coffee stains on it, write it down, age it a little bit. I won't tell anybody.
Yeah,
we'll make that happen.
Yeah,
but no,
the numbers were a little off, but it was still good.
Yeah, So, for those of you who might not know, this all happened in Broward County, Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. Who at that time, what year was this?
That was, 2022. I think it was October. We started. We got licensed October 2012. I think it was either 2012 or 2013. We might have started in 2012 and we got licensed in 2013.
So that was a few years into when shit started getting really bad in Broward County, Florida, because it was the epicenter for pill mills for many years. There was a loophole in the laws where you could open up a pain management clinic, essentially do everything. You could walk in, get your MRI, see the doctor, and get your pills in one place. And again, the Wild West is the only way I could really explain it. I was going to down Commercial Boulevard. I don't even know how many doctors I was going to. Me and my friends would, they'd go to 3 doctors. I'd go to a couple of doctors, and then we'd all just have what seemed at the time like endless amounts of oxys. And then as soon as they popped up, they shut down. And now you have this whole community who is completely dependent on these, and you just can't get them anymore. So that was you guys probably opened up a couple years after all the pain management clinics closed down, and what a need for treatment at that time.
They were still going on.
Going on.
Oh man, I was representing people. People would be driving here literally from Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee, and West Virginia. They'd drive down here just to buy pills to go back up there. And what would happen is they would sit, they'd go, there'd be 4 of them in a car, and they would take their turns going in to see the doctor. And they would all come out with literally hundreds of oxys and roxys. Right. And they would sit in the car and start they'd be trading pills and showing people their pills and stuff. The cops would be sitting in cars in the parking lot, see them doing this, would bust all of them. They'd all get charged for trafficking, because in Florida, to be charged with trafficking doesn't take a lot.
Right. It's Broward County.
Well, it's just the state. It's the first drug czar in this country was the former governor, Bob Martinez. So I think he was appointed. I want to say, I don't know if that was under Reagan or under Bush, but I mean,
that's where the saying came from. Come on vacation, leave on probation.
That would be it. That's exactly how it worked. Actually, that's if you had a good lawyer.
A Marshall Geisser.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, it was interesting during this time. It wasn't even during like I started practicing law in the late '80s, and Miami Vice, was in the early '80s, and all the big cocaine drug traffickers were down here. I mean, crazy things. I mean, people would be found dead in canals. Lawyers would be found dead in canals.
Right.
Some people were not very happy with the outcome of their cases. So
The
yeah,
cops were involved in the trafficking, like the
yeah,
Miami River cops and all this.
yeah.
It was insanity. So short story, I won't get into it too much because nobody is on here to defend themselves, but that is why my family moved from Chicago to Miami back in the day. My family was in the music business. They knew Richie Supa. I've known Richie since I was, pretty young. And my godfather, Doc McGee, who was a guest on the show, he's been very public about his it's been very public about his trafficking cases, but they moved the offices from Chicago to Miami, and we all moved down here in 1979 just because things were a lot more convenient.
Yeah, Doc is a legend in the
Yeah.
industry, probably
Yeah.
in both industries. But
Yeah.
he was great at finding talent.
Yeah.
You know.
No, definitely was. So another thing about opening up a treatment center at that point in time, maybe not all of them, as you said, but a lot of the pill mills started closing down. They started cracking down on them, and a lot of the people who owned the pill mills went into open rehabs and detoxes, and I mean complete flop houses, places
Yeah.
where you could go to say you're going into treatment, but they would, very bad shit going on there, keeping people high, keeping people on drugs. They wanted to keep their clientele, essentially.
Yeah, and they literally, people would go the way that the insurance companies were set up at the time. People people liked being in rehabs. Now we never did that. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I mean, I'm not going to let
Right,
us,
right.
dab into that kind of stuff. But like you said, a lot of people that were involved in the mills got into the business also. And because, it's like paying Peter and paying Paul at the same time, and it's the same person.
Right.
So they were sending people. People would be getting not kicked out, but being released from their program because they completed their program. And on the way out, someone would say, "Here's a 20. Go buy yourself a hit, and you can come back in later on today. But you have to be using." And so that's how the system was. That's why there was such a huge crackdown. I mean, literally, Delray Beach was the capital of pill mills and elite. I mean,
The body brokers, yeah.
it was just terrible. I mean, people. It was. You could drive down Atlantic Avenue in Delray Beach, and there were literally people passed out on the street, walking
Yeah.
out of rehabs, and just it was terrible.
It's funny enough, I didn't even know about that until I got clean at Recovery Unplugged, because I remember talking to like 5 or 6 people who had done that, and they were like, "You didn't ever did that? You could just go to a treatment center." You had to get insurance. I didn't have insurance. That's probably why. So, you would get insurance, and then that you would find all these loopholes, and they would send you in for like 3 or 4 days, 72 hours, I believe it was, and then you could get out. They'd pay you to relapse or whatnot, and then bring you right back in. So you're essentially the product getting paid to use drugs and just go in and out of treatment centers.
Yeah, and unfortunately, so I'll share this real quick story. So when Andrew, myself, and Paul sat down for the first time, for the second time, we met and we hashed things out and came up with numbers and figured things out. And when we were getting together the second time to decide whether or not we were going to start this venture, I asked a question. I said, "Are we in this to make money, or are we in this to save lives?" And frankly, if anyone would have said we're in this to make money, Recovery Unplugged never would have happened.
Right, right.
But we all we're in this for the purpose of saving people's lives. Much to the point, there were times sometimes in our business where we were helping people when the resources probably weren't even available for us to help people.
Yeah.
So, that's always been our goal. That's always been the reason why we started. So, yeah.
And, I was a recipient of a scholarship to Recovery Unplugged. Naomi Fabricant, who was one of our VPs for some time, extended member of my family. And her and Richie had offered me Recovery Unplugged years before I came in, but I wasn't ready. And it was just one of those things where it was like, I could go to BARC, which is like the county-run treatment center, in and out. I'm not, well, it's not a victimless thing. I'm taking resources away, right? But I would go in and want to get clean, want to stay clean, but every time I got out, it was just like, let me just get one more. I'm going to do one more, and then I'll start this recovery thing, and it'll be great. But something about having that offer to go to Recovery Unplugged, when I did, it was like a favor to people, and people were really, rooting for me. And then just the treatment that I received there, it was like nothing I had ever experienced before. I'm still dope sick, coming in off of a 20-year run, and
That's all.
it's 20 years. And I didn't feel like talking. I didn't feel like being a participant in a group. But the therapist was like, well, tell us about yourself, Jason. And I was like, They're like, listen, if you don't feel like talking, how about you play a song that can mirror what you're feeling right now? And instantly I was just like, I can absolutely do that. And I play a song, and then people are listening to the lyrics, and then it was just, it blew my mind, because I had heard about it, and it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Once I'm experiencing it, still uncomfortable in my skin from all the chemicals in me, but participating and just feeling like, I don't know, it's so cheesy to say, because music makes a difference is one of our taglines, but it truly, truly did. I am a living testimonial.
So curiosity, how many rehabs had you gone to prior to Recovery Unplugged?
Recovery Unplugged was number 20.
That's all? Just 20?
Yeah,
one for each year.
Yeah, pretty much. No, but they were all, I didn't try. So I got into drugs pretty late in life, or at least the hard stuff. I didn't really start using anything, what you would call a hard drug, until I was 23, which for a lot of people that's a pretty late bloomer. And then, I didn't, it took me a lot of years of just staying out there, because I was like, at first I was doing some cool stuff. I was like DJing and working in clubs, and it was not frowned upon. So it was like I just kept the party going, and then I was the only one left partying, and then it got really dark for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And then in 2010, or late 2009, early 2010 is when I first went to my first detox. And then it took me essentially 7 years of going in and out of treatment, bouncing around and just living a miserable fucking life. It was terrible.
You know what they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so for you, Recovery Unplugged was the teacher.
It really was, and I stayed close, man. I stayed fucking close. I went, like I said, I was on scholarship. So I was like, I always felt like I owed them something, but it was every staff member, from the therapist to the text to you. I don't know if you remember this, Marshall, but I was still in treatment. I'm sure you don't remember it, and there was a party at Riviera at one of the residences, and I'm just starting to come around. I didn't know that you were an owner. I thought maybe you were a therapist. I didn't know who you were. And you just came up and started a conversation with me. I had some checkerboard Vans on, some red and blue checkerboard Vans, and you just came up to me and started talking to me about my shoes. And it was just a genuine conversation. And I was just like, this guy's pretty fucking cool, man. I like this guy. So I had a good first impression of you.
This is one of my favorite stories. It's funny. When we started, I was the CEO, and there was one of our former employees who's great guys, been clean for a long time, Dave Mariano.
Love Dave.
We were outside of the main office after during the break of Feel Good Friday, and I was talking to someone and who was one of the new clients that came in, and the guy looked at me and he said, "So do you work here?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Are you a tech?" And Dave says he's the head tech, which was great. But I mean, it's no one at the facility, even now, even though we've gotten a lot bigger. No one walks around, hey, I'm the CEO.
I'm the big shot, right?
Yeah, there's none of that in that facility.
No, absolutely. And I've been to all of our facilities, and it's just such a good vibe at all the places. Like Nashville is our our recent opening, the newest member to the Recovery Unplugged family, and Nashville is just fucking cool now. It's like the staff there, the alumni there. It's just there's like an electricity there now that it's amazing. But yeah, back to what I was saying before I got sidetracked and started talking about you complimenting me for my shoes, which is always, that always means a lot to me when anybody compliments me on my shoes, because I spend a lot of time picking them out. But
I compliment you also on your better half.
Oh, that's a no-brainer. Way better half.
You'll tell Gabby I say hi.
I will.
Yeah,
I'm extremely lucky in that department.
I want to just take a second to say hi to all the people that are listening into us too. I'm speaking for you, even though I've never been on the podcast before. I mean, we really appreciate you following this podcast. Every little bit that every one of you can do, just even by talking or touching another human being, can make a huge change in our world. And so we appreciate the fact that you guys are on with us. So we appreciate it. Look at Blake Cohen's there. I haven't seen Blake in ages.
That's the second time that you got to use your broadcasting training. I love it.
Look at this, man. I'm like pushing buttons and things are coming.
Yeah, but like I said, I stayed close and nobody treated me any different because I was a scholarship. But I thought I was like, I owed something. I have to help the tech sweep. I have to do this and that. And they're just like, no, you're a client and your needs come first. So I fucking stayed close. And, I was living in Halfway, and then I got a job right around the corner from the facility so I could stay close, hit all my IOP meetings. Once I got a year clean, Christine offered me a job as a tech. I was working as a chef at the time, so I took a little bit of a pay cut to come work at Recovery Unplugged as a tech. But it was like, I knew it. My aunt, when I was in, rest in peace, my Aunt Barbara, who passed away a couple years ago, was still alive when I went into treatment. She told me and my mom, like, she had a feeling that this was where I was going to stay. Like, I know I'm going in as a client, but she just had a feeling that there was something there for me. And she was fucking right.
And how long have you been with us?
I just celebrated 6 years clean.
Congrats.
Back in June. And then 5 years with the company. So I was working as a tech, and then I decided to go back to school, to go back into doing like film, video, TV, little broadcasting. And, I wanted to do what I'm doing, making videos for Recovery Unplugged, but I didn't know how to navigate any of that. But luckily a little bit of that junkie mentality was still in there, like how to manipulate some things here and there, So I decided to make a school project, a little documentary for Recovery Unplugged. And I was like, I don't know how. And I was like, wait a second. If I get some of the leadership in the documentary, they're going to watch it. So I asked Rob Harrison if he would be in the documentary. He watched it, showed it to Andrew, I believe showed it to you, showed it to Richie, showed it to Alex Hochberger, who was, heading up the marketing department. And I get a call one day. They were like, this documentary it's pretty fucking good. Like, would you want to do more videos for us? And I'm like, yeah, they're like, how do we get in touch with you? Well, I'm like, well, I'm at tech right now. And they're like, oh shit. Okay. Well, finish your school and then we'll figure something out. And then, the rest is history. And
Yeah. And we're glad to have you. And you do great work too, so.
tell us more about that. No, I'm just kidding.
But the work that you do.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, seriously though, man, you do great work. So great that I'm starting another venture up. And you're going to be doing my videography for me.
All right. Well, we'll talk offline, and I'd be glad to help with your presidential run. I'd be great doing smear campaigns for your opposition. It's something I've always wanted to do.
That's the challenge with me, man. I'm too nice and too honest. There would be no smears.
I'm very good at editing, so I'll make it that way. So Bruce gave a special thanks to Richie Supa. Bruce, I'm assuming went to our Florida facility. How you doing, Bruce? Thanks for coming on. We love Richie Supa so much. What a good guy. What an amazing story, right?
Great music writer. Oh my God, that guy. The lyrics that he can put with music to touch people. It's astounding. In his heart, he's got this huge heart, and he's given so much back to the recovery community. I mean, I think he's been in recovery. I'm thinking like 30
years. 30 was it 35?
I think it's like.
I don't want to cheat him. It's somewhere. It's over 30 years. So congratulations, Rich. I know he celebrated not too long ago. So that's great stuff. But so let's go back to writing everything down on the napkin that day. Trying to get a facility started in Fort Lauderdale. Now, if you could you have ever imagined that we would have been a national operation now with our locations in Northern Virginia, Nashville, Austin, Texas, Florida, and now our virtual programs, which, you could be anywhere if you need some help. And we've expanded, so now it's mental health as well. So I know we treat some depression, some anxiety, along with, the drug and alcohol treatment center.
Right. So I've always been a big thinker, and so I've always trying to figure, I always am looking for something that can be scaled out. So, I mean, look, if our mission at the time was to save lives, and there's a limited number of lives we can save with one facility, and so the larger vision was always there, but we had to get past. You had to get past your initiation stage, which was several years. It took us 4 or 5 years before we stepped into another jurisdiction. So
right.
Yeah, but we always had an idea that we would do it.
That's awesome. So Heather asked if we incorporate music into the virtual IOP program, and of course we do. Music makes the difference at Recovery Unplugged. Music has something to do with all of our, it's in all of our treatment modalities. So take a look, go to recoveryunplugged.com. You can learn more about our virtual IOP program. Bruce has 60 days clean tomorrow. Congratulations, Bruce.
Congratulations, Bruce.
He's looking for a job somewhere up in Pompano Beach. So if anybody out there knows anybody who's hiring, hit Bruce up in the chat. Anybody who came through Recovery Unplugged has to have come through Recovery Unplugged, I suppose. But yeah, Bruce, good luck, man. Anything else that you think that we missed here? We're talking about what you seeing. You like where the place is headed. Everything's good. Seal of approval.
I love the idea that we're going virtual. It's ironic that as bad as COVID was, and COVID was really bad for people with mental health issues, for people with addiction issues. I mean, we've lost more people over the last 2.5 years than
Insane.
Probably in the 5 years before that combined. It's terrible. But the interesting thing about COVID is it forced businesses and entrepreneurs to figure out another way to do business.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so,
it's changed the world. Zoom meetings have just been, they've absolutely taken over the way we communicate, the way we get our entertainment, the way everything about it. And that's one of the great things about the virtual treatment too, is that you don't have to be going into your first day of treatment. You can be alumni and have some, maybe some mental health things that you want to look into and get on there. You're already qualified that if you came through Recovery Unplugged to, get a little checkup. Why not?
thank you, Kristen. I don't know if what you're saying that I said was profound, but thank you for feeling it.
Yeah, take the credit. That's cool. This is all because, you know what, Marshall, this is all partially because of you. We would literally not be, and I hate to throw that word out there, literally, but
That's
we would
fine.
literally not be here right now if it weren't for that napkin,
That's
that dove
true.
that flew through the window, all of that. So
Stream of light.
thank you
It's
so much for everything.
it's funny. I'm going to throw some little kudos out to my youngest child, Sasha, and to my oldest, Alex, who I think is on this call also. So I used to bring them in
Yeah.
on Feel Good Friday, and they used to perform on
I know
Good.
Alex is a great rapper. Alex used to get up there with Tommy, and Sasha, her rendition of Hallelujah was just incredible. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're both doing well.
Yeah, we're glad too, and thank God for that. And so, I mean, we're excited that we have the opportunity to continue to serve people, because that's how we make this place a better world for all of us, And
Right. Well, I appreciate it. So let's get into let's lighten it up a little bit. Maybe we have a little music thing we're gonna do. Greg, if you could run Spinny Wheel, we'll get.
There once was a wheel, it was a special wheel, it was a magical wheel, it was the best damn wheel, it's the spinny wheel of songs. Da-da-da-da.
That's great.
There's Joseph's contribution since he forgot about us tonight.
That's awesome.
So it's gonna land on a subject. I'll go first, and then you tell us what you think. Hopefully Joseph's out there enjoying himself at the park. Joseph's doing a lot these days, though, so I don't blame him. What do we got? A song that could be your theme song. Good God, that's a tough one.
Wow. Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to take the easy way out and just go with Eye of the Tiger, because it's the only thing I can think of if I want to walk into a room and then everybody would hear it. I think that would be it. That's so lame, but I said it.
It's funny, since you call it spinning wheel, what goes up must
come down.
Spinning wheel, round and round.
Blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a lot of ups and downs in my life. I mean, a lot. And
Tell us about all of them. We got a couple more.
you don't have enough time, buddy. Good try, though. You're going to need to have me on every week for the next year, and then
that sounds good.
Crack the surface. But
What's your theme song?
what's my theme song? Yeah, I always, this is going to sound really crazy, but I was really heavy into working out for a long time. I used to love the theme to Rocky. That would just pump me up.
Yeah.
But, my probably favorite song is Happy by Pharrell.
That's a good one.
I
Okay.
love that song. It makes me smile, and it's a great song.
Well, then it did its job.
Yep.
Aptly named.
Yep.
Cool.
And I'm trying to remember what what's the guy's name? I can't remember the other artist. Someone else turned that song down. That was a mistake.
That was a mistake. Well, when we had Doc McGee on the program, I got to ask him, who are the bands that you turned down to manage?
wow.
And he said it was Black Crowes
Wow.
and Rage Against the Machine.
Wow.
He turned those down, man, and I'm not going to mention any names, but he did pick up a couple of stinkers over the years, so he could have.
Wow, Rage.
Yeah, that's some good
Were
stuff.
they too political for him? I can't imagine that.
You know, knowing Doc as I do, it could have been, but I don't think he lets that interfere with his business. So who knows? Because he did manage Ted Nugent for a lot of years, so could be. All right.
Kiss is still going. I mean, they're still touring. I mean, this is their like 50th anniversary tour of their 50th anniversary tour.
And they're still up there shooting flames out of their butt or whatever it is. They're doing it at 70 years old.
Crazy.
All right, so I'm gonna need you to put your thinking cap on.
Okay.
Because it is now time for rapid fire questions.
Oh my God, you didn't.
It's rapid fire question time.
All right, hope the flames didn't startle you too much.
No.
All right.
This whole thing is startling me.
You ready to go?
Let's rock.
How many days since Recovery Unplugged's been open? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God.
What was your first concert?
My first concert. Whoa. I don't know. Dude, it might have been Zeppelin.
Holy shit, okay. That's a good one.
Yeah, it might have been Zeppelin. It might not have been, though, but it was close to my first one.
Wow. Kiss was my first show, and I fell asleep. I was born and raised in a recording studio, so loud music was just like, you know. Okay, so have you had a Perry Mason moment in the courtroom?
Never.
Never?
They don't exist.
Not yet.
No, I've never had a Perry Mason moment. Wow, that would be so great.
Well, we're going to have to work on that. So things to look forward to in your life.
The closest I've come to a Perry Mason moment would have been just outright catching a cop lying. I mean, just outright.
Well, there you go. That's pretty
Yeah, it's not
Perry Mason.
There's my cat.
There's your cat.
It's Felix. Say hi, Felix.
Felix wants to be part of. That's great.
All right, we're gonna let him in.
All right. So, Marshall, you're by yourself. No wife around. You eat whatever you want. Guilty pleasure food. Cheat day.
Wow.
What's your go-to?
I love ice cream, man. I love my ice cream.
Any particular flavor?
I do not discriminate.
Yeah, anyone? I mean, it could be like the cheap Neapolitan or
No.
Ben
I
and
like
Jerry's.
coffee.
I don't know.
I like a good, coffee. Like right now in my freezer, I've got a brownie coffee Haagen-Dazs and a coffee chip.
I'm coming over.
You're welcome. Anytime.
All right. Do you have an irrational fear?
Oh, I have. Yes, I live on the beach,
Right.
and I ever since I saw the movie Jaws,
Right.
and the girl was drowning in the very first scene, I hate the water. I go into it, but I am.
You're always almost positive that there's a shark right and under the next wave.
It's completely irrational.
Until it isn't, because then the one day you let your guard down, get bit by a shark, you're like, fuck, I knew it.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I've never been fucking bitten by a shark. So there you go.
Knock on wood. Hopefully you'll have your Perry Mason moment before you get bit by a shark.
That would be great. Thank you.
And
bleed out. Yeah.
You seem like a pretty put together guy. You always seem to be in a good mood, or at least you put on the appearance well. Last question. What's the secret?
I'm actually, if you talk to my family, they will tell you that I am a very serious human being. And believe it or not, I'm somewhat antisocial. But when I get in groups for short periods of time, I'm good. I like company, but I like them in short periods of time.
Wow. So you might be one of the first lawyers in history to be a bit of a bullshitter.
Not me. What does
No.
that mean? I'm not bullshitting. I'm a little too. Listen, man. My kids have told me to stop being so brutally honest all the time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty straightforward about
No,
that.
you are. I'm just giving you a hard time because I love you, Marshall.
All right. There's nothing wrong with that.
All right, so we are just about out of time, but that hour flew by. I think we could have gone another hour or two and still had a lot to talk about. So is there anything you'd like to close up with? Any messages, any words of wisdom?
Yeah, I would just like everyone that's listening to talk to other people. Just start communicating with people and stop judging. Stop judging. I mean, this world is too full of judgment, and it's human nature to want to be right. But my wife and I, early on in our relationship, we'd have fights like usual people, and one of us came up. I probably learned it from Tony Robbins, and one of us we said, "Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?" And the world needs to be a happy place, so stop needing to be right. Let's find some solutions for things that are going on in this world, and let's make this a better place for everyone to live.
All right, that sounds good. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Marshall Geisser for President 2028, everybody. You heard it here first. You could donate. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you so much for everything you do, Marshall. And,
Appreciate it.
I truly think that I am alive and leading a happy and productive life because of you, Richie, Paul, and Andrew. So thank you to the four of you for putting together Recovery Unplugged, and what a great program it is, and it saves lives. And as we always say here at Talksicology, there's 1,000 ways in and 1,000 ways out, and we hope you find your way. See you next week on Wednesday.